If Frank Sinatra ever wrote a song about the Cold War from the Soviet perspective, the song would go about like this. I'm not going to sing it. I'll think you can thank me later. But in 1949, it was a very good year, right? We've already talked about it, but I'll remind you. In 1949, the Chinese go red, they go communist. And also that year, the Soviet Union explodes its first bomb. So the question is, how did they do it? How in the world did the Soviet Union, a place that they thought people thought was backwards, they had no infrastructure, millions of people dead as a result of World War II, how were they able to do it? The answer: spies. They were able to catch up because of the fact that spies were producing a lot of information for the Soviet Union from the Manhattan Project. For example, a German-born scientist who worked on the bomb in New Mexico admitted after being arrested that he was spying on the nuclear program and passing on those secrets to Soviet spies. He named a name, and the guy was named David Greenglass, who also worked in New Mexico. And Greenglass will roll on his sister, Ethel Greenglass Rosenberg, and her husband, Julius Rosenberg. These two people, Ethel and Julius Rosenberg, will be arrested, convicted, and executed for spying, for passing on nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union. This trial thus helped fuel the fear of the country of the Soviet Union and of communists, particularly communists within the government. And it only needs a politician to take advantage of this in order to get his name out there. That politician was named Joseph McCarthy. In 1946, McCarthy was elected as the senator from Wisconsin. And honestly, nobody ever heard of him. He was just one of 96 senators. Remember, there's only 48 states back then. But nevertheless, he gets in the Senate and doesn't distinguish himself. And the only thing really people knew about him, he's the Pepsi Cola kid. He he represented the interests of Pepsi Cola. By the time he's getting closer and closer to 1952, he realizes he needs to get reelected, and nobody knows who he is. That's a bad thing to do. That's a bad strategy in order to get reelected. So starting in 1950, he embarks on getting his name out there. How does he do it? Takes advantage of the biggest fear of the day, of going against the communists, right? So he's going to go to West Virginia, and he's going to take a piece of paper. It's claiming, like this, he's going to claim that he has a list of known card-carrying members of the Communist Party working in the federal government. And of course, what's going to happen? People are going to wonder, who are these people? We need to figure out who they are so that we can get them out of the government, because these clearly aren't red meat eating Americans, right? So we got to get rid of them. Well, in 1952, the Republicans actually take over Congress. And as a result, McCarthy becomes the head of a Senate committee on government operations. Through this committee, he's able to embark on witch hunts in order to find all of these alleged communists. The problem was there really wasn't any. They were just accusations, and reputations were ruined, and careers were gone as a result of all of these accusations. McCarthy eventually is going to run into a brick wall, and that's, of course, known as the Army McCarthy hearings of 1954. Now, McCarthy basically is going to go and try to accuse prominent Army members of being communists, including at one point George C. Marshall. Remember, he was the chief of staff of the Army. Now, 1954. Who was president of the United States back then? Well, if you don't know, don't worry. It's Dwight David Eisenhower. Does he have a nominal connection with the Army? Oh, yeah, he does. He's the guy that won World War II in Europe and was once chief of staff of the Army. Yeah, that guy. He's president of the United States now. And he hates what McCarthy is doing. So, the result, of course, is going to be that as McCarthy keeps on making these outlandish accusations about communists being in the government, he's going to run into this brick wall, especially when he starts going after the Army. And in fact, he's going to be called out. And the result, of course, is going to be that the Senate itself is actually going to censure McCarthy for acting stupidly, for going too far, for accusing people of doing nothing wrong, and of ruining people's lives. But, of course, McCarthy got his reward. He got reelected in 1952 and is able to serve another term. Right? But nevertheless, McCarthy and McCarthyism is going to be forever synonymous with the Second Red Scare.